For centuries, it has survived when others have failed. This land of boundless mysteries, breathtaking scenery, and fascinating culture is home to a magnificent people. Join us as we boldly venture into the magical wonder that is China, the Celestial Empire.
These colorful clumps are not children's clay or Play-Doh, but ordinary household flour made into a thick paste and brought to life with a bit of food coloring. 60-year-old Yan Jiangdong from Beijing has been creating his special dough for more than 20 years, not for cooking, baking, or eating, but for something very unusual. Carefully measuring exact quantities of flour and water, adding his own secret ingredients along the way. Yan kneads his concoction like a baker preparing his dough for bread. Yan's dough, however, will not be baked. He has something totally different in mind. Soon this will become this. Over 20 years ago, Yan Jiangdong had a good-paying job in a spinning mill. But he never lost his childhood interest in ancient handicrafts. As an adult, he began studying and teaching himself about the dyeing craft of flour making, sculpting works of art from ordinary flour and water. Over time, Yan has become a leading expert in this nearly forgotten art, and his passion to keep this tradition alive has led him into teaching, passing along his skills to other artists. After Yan has made his base material, he begins his creation by coloring clumps of dough. Chopping, smashing, and rolling the color, blending it into perfection. Today, Yan is going to make his trademark warrior figurine, starting by making a small light blue ball of dough and sculpting it into a lifelike head. plastic lifelike tool in hand, he pushes and presses, quickly creating facial features on his small ball of blue clay, using a small long stick to mount the little head. Next, Jan cuts and rolls 2 tiny white balls from the dough. Delicately placing them into the eyes of the figure. Jan then rolls and spreads some of the light blue dough in his hand and extracts fragments of it to place under the eyes. This type of subtle detail is part of what makes Jan a master in his field. Spreading and extracting specks of black dough from the table, Jan makes minuscule eyeballs. Placing them on the head of the figure. Jan closely examines the warrior's facial features. Now, with a small amount of red-colored dough, he begins making lips.
一天啊，这流水作业，能做到5、6个。
Gently securing them in place. Jan rolls tiny fragments of orange on the table, delicately smashing them to form eyebrows. He then places them onto the figure. The warrior's ears are formed with a small tool. Jan then twists the head in his fingers, studying his work. This is really taking form. Jan places the 2 legs and feet that he's already made and places them on the table, both held together with toothpicks. Having already made and placed a hat onto the warrior's head, Jan begins to place flaming red dough onto the figure, forming its hair. The warrior's head is starting to take on its own personality. Jan studies one of his completed warriors, taking measurements to accurately duplicate his work. Delicately adds gold paint to the warrior's hat. Once Jan has the body of the warrior made, he begins forming a cloak and skirt for the small figure. Using a comb and putty knife, Jan adds detail to the bright yellow dough, which will form the cape. Jan gently presses it onto the figure with delicate precision. With a nip and a tuck here and a trim there, Jan is ready to put the final touches on his new creation. He garnishes the proud warrior with a light blue ribbon, highlights its garments with a splash of gold paint, and fastens a golden orange skirt to its waist. Now, Jan makes the warrior's tiny hands. Carefully attaching them to the figure. With the hands in place, he provides the warrior with a spear. Finally, Jan adds facial hair to the warrior, starting with a red mustache. Then gluing on its beard. In hand, he surveys his warrior, closely examining the details. The results are truly amazing. From a clump of ordinary dough, Jan has created a mini masterpiece. His trademark warriors have won many awards and the admiration of other artists and collectors alike. Jan places each one of his flower figures into its own glass container. This not only serves as a nice display case, but also helps protect the fragile figurine. Once secure within its glass house, Mr. Jan carefully packs them away in traditional Chinese boxes. Storing them in stacks while they await new owners. Yearning to keep this ancient art of flower figuring alive, Jan also teaches this craft to others. Today's class is outside, where his young students are putting the final touches to their own small creations.
太乱，再分开一些，啊，太裂了，这笔太粗了。
Yan Zhangdong's skills reach far and beyond flower figuring. He is also an accomplished clay bust sculptor. local Beijing client has hired him to do a bust of her. With a clump of clay at his fingertips, Jan works his magic in front of his nervous client. The results are truly amazing.
不谢，希望您的身体啊。
Years of study and his unique creations have paid off for Jan. He earns a prosperous living with his many talents, successfully doing his work full-time. Attracting many buyers at markets and fairs. But earning a living in this art, especially in China, is difficult to do. This is Zhang Qi, a former student of Jan's who now lives outside of Beijing. Zhang has managed to start a business of his own, using his inherent skills combined with the knowledge he gained from Mr. Yang Zhangdong's class. Promising young flower figuring artist, Zhang earns a very modest living by creating and selling his cartoon-like figures on street corners and outside of schools, mostly to eager children. As the young boys and girls leave school, they are immediately drawn to Zhang. Catching full sight of the irresistible colored fun figures displayed on his stand. Fingers fast at work creating new mini creations. The crowd of children grow, quickly surrounding Zhang with intrigue, smiles, and laughter. Soon, parents arrive. And they too get caught up in the excitement and fascination of Zhang's talent. Moms and dads hardly resist the urge to purchase the cartoon-like flower figures for their children. Zhang Qi starts each day in much the same way as the day before. He loads up his bike and sets off to find an ideal location to make and sell his figures. Today, however, Zhang is distracted from his normal routine, stopping off at a park to investigate other artists working on flower figuring. With a great appreciation for his art and eager to absorb methods of other artists, Zhang spends much of his day intently watching a stranger crafting her own flower works. Observing and studying her every move. After having spent several hours neglecting his own work, Zhang strolls away in deep contemplation. China is an ancient country rooted deep in tradition and artistry. Zhang Qi represents a new generation that is keeping these ancient traditions alive. Zhang knows that the odds of achieving greatness in this field, like his teacher Yan has done, will take years of dedicated hard work and long hours. He knows that he will likely remain a starving artist and may never make a lot of money or obtain great recognition from his craft. But he willingly commits himself, lending his talents to preserving this dying art of flower figuring. Zhang is happy to be doing something he loves and at least getting by while doing it. Master to student, an almost forgotten ancient Chinese art slowly regains its traditional glory. Yan Zhangdong turned a one-time hobby into a movement to create a new generation of artists and keep a lost art form from fading into the history books. His dream is fulfilled. Not in the legions of sculptures and warriors he has made, or in the awards he has received, but in the resurrection of traditional flower figuring. In the time-honored traditions of an ancient land, this is China, the Celestial Empire.